Learning how to support yourself through this transition is an active effort. It's a very active effort. I am lucky enough that I do have support systems, but it's still my transition, and I still feel that I have been going through it on my own, and part of that was my decision. I think that if I needed and wanted other people to be more involved, I could have reached out. But I personally felt that it was really important for me to do this on my own and to feel like I was doing this on my own and have my support systems as support systems rather than have them be directly involved in my transition. I knew from the start that I wanted to get on waitlists on my own. I wanted to go to my appointments on my own. I wanted to pick up my prescription on my own. I wanted to do my first T-shot on my own. And I did that, and I just knew deep inside of me that that was the right thing to do for myself. I knew that I would have regrets if I involved anyone in that decision, no matter how much I wanted to in the moment. And I think that it would have been fine, it would have been good, it would have been a different experience, but for the way that I personally want to go about my transition and feel best and feel the most fulfilled, I am so glad that I listened to that voice that told me to do this on my own, because it really built so much strength inside of me. And I can look back now and say that I'm so incredibly proud of myself for getting here on my own and figuring it out on my own. And you know, even if you do have community that you can reach out to, it's not like I had like a partner or like best friends that were checking in on me all the time, being like, hey, how is this feeling, how is that feeling? And that's fine, like I'm not like, but like I did feel like it was a transition on my own, which was good for me. It was a very active effort for me to have a healthy relationship to this transition being something that I did on my own. I had to really, really push myself in my security and trust in myself. And what I mean by that is that I feel like building my trust to myself has been literally like essential. And I think that building trust with myself, I it's really hard to look back and explain how I did it other than literally just trust yourself more, listen to yourself, make space for yourself, stop judging yourself so much. And it's an active thing. Like, it is an active thing when you sit there and you allow yourself to say negative things about yourself. And it is an active decision for you to ignore the feelings that are coming up and distract them with doing things that make them go away, which I did. I still do to this day, but I make more and more space, and I make myself more and more uncomfortable so that I can be more comfortable in my own skin by pushing what comfortable means to me. Because that state of overthinking, whether it's like getting ready for a show or an event or a hangout and you're putting on an outfit and you're like, oh my god, what are they going to think, what are they going to think, da, 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 da. That's exactly when you should just say, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show myself how it feels. And then if you do it and you feel bad and you feel wrong, you now know, but at least you give yourself that chance to feel it through, rather than sitting there and telling yourself that you're not worth that space and energy, because the way that you act and the way that you treat your desires and these impulses inside of you is going to reflect on your self-worth and the security that you feel in yourself. And if I stand there and I say, I'm not going to wear that outfit, I'm not going to post that story, I'm not going to say those words, I'm not going to say that thing to my friend, I'm not going to admit this thing to this person, I'm telling myself that those things inside of me are not worth my energy, and that they're things I should be ashamed of, because the shame that we have inside of ourselves is something that has been built up, and it's something that you can unbuild. It's something that you have the control over, and you need to understand that you have so much more control over yourself and the way that you perceive yourself and the way that you perceive your community, the way that you connect to your community, than you think that you do. So much of it is in shame, and shame is truly one of the nastiest weapons that's used against us and used to keep us the ways that they want us to stay. And I think empathy is truly the solution to everything. Empathy with yourself, empathy with everybody around you, empathy with even the people that you hate the most. It doesn't mean that you have to excuse their behaviors, and I don't believe that you should excuse any negative behaviors that are harmful to either you or the people around you, but having that radical empathy to understand why people act the way that they do is essential, because it reflects on how your perception of the world is, and that inherently changes the way that you see yourself and the way that you think you deserve to act in this world. Because now, with the relationship that I built with myself and the security that I feel with how much space I've made for who I am, I inherently, deeply, deeply believe that I deserve to do these things. I deserve to wear the outfits that I want to wear. I deserve to say the things I want to do. I deserve to put the art that I want to out there. I think I deserve to have the space and to make the space for myself to be the person that I want to be. But that also doesn't mean that I feel a sense of entitlement to get anything back from it, because I think that there is this toxic loop that can sometimes happen that would deter you from doing things like putting yourself out there, where you expect a certain return from the world. Like, I was so courageous, I put this art out there, but nobody liked it, nobody said anything about it, so you inherently believe that it's worth less and it wasn't worth that attention, and that it wasn't worth you putting it out there, when you don't realize that the value of you putting it out there is just that you believe and you tell yourself that that's worth the space that it's taking up. Because the moment you take it down, you've just given your brain this wiring that tells you that the art, the outfit, the thing that you say, whatever it is that you're putting, that piece of you that you're putting out there into the world, the only value that it holds is the value that other people put onto it. But they don't understand any of it. Like, they might understand parts of it, but they don't understand it. It's yours. That's a part of you. How can they understand what value that part of you holds? It's quite literally a piece of you, and you actually determine that value. And validation is important. We all need that validation. But that's not the only way that you can wait to feel fulfilled in yourself. And it's a really hard and abstract concept for us to kind of grasp and understand how to go about it, but I'm here to tell you that you have the control and you have the power. It's just a consistent rewiring of your brain. Every time you feel those little worries and overthinking moments where you're like, what is this gonna come off? How are people gonna think of me? How are people gonna think of me? How are people gonna think of me? That's exactly when you should do what makes you uncomfortable and what your heart actually wants. And if you don't know what your heart wants, then you're gonna have to take time to sit and figure out how to have that conversation with yourself. You have to open that channel of communication and understand, what is my heart saying right now? And if you can't hear it, then that's your first step. You have to hear your heart. You have to understand, what does my heart want? And all you can do is just listen to it. You have to sit and listen and listen and listen until you can hear it, because you will hear it. It's just not going to be able to speak if you don't give it space. So you have to listen and try to understand, try to hear, try to connect the feelings that you're feeling into your brain and understand, my brain is saying this, my heart is saying this. I want to wear this, but I don't know, I feel silly, I feel cringe, but cringe is dead. Cringe is still stupid and silly, and I'm still trying to unlearn a lot of it that I have for myself and for other people and its existence in my life, but unlearning it is so incredibly liberating, and you really need to understand how much you hold yourself back. A lot of the time, the point and the person that you're imagining yourself to be, that you're waiting to become, depends on you doing that work to listen to yourself and to make space for that person. How is that person going to transform and turn you now into that person if you're not even making space for it? There's so much that's clouding everything around you, that's telling you, oh my god, this and that. How is it going to have any space? It's kind of standing around going, hey, but you can't see it. You can't see it, and it can't see you, because all of this cloud, all of this rainy cloud, this grayness around you, that's your overthinking thoughts is creating that barrier between you. You can have that conversation with your would-be self, with the person that you want to be, but you have to be ready to do that. You have to make space for it, and you can't expect it to just show up. You have to think of it like you really are building yourself, and you have to think of it like you're falling in love with yourself, because that's truly, truly how it felt for me. It felt the same as falling in love with somebody else. It really felt like I started to see myself in new ways. You know, when you have a friend and all of a sudden you look at them and you start perceiving their eyes differently, you start perceiving the way that they move differently, the way that they talk sounds nicer. There's something just inherently satisfying about being in their presence. You can have that with yourself. You can. It's going to be different, obviously, but it feels quite similar to me, falling in love with myself. I perceive myself differently than I did, and I realize how much control I actually have over that, and it's really beautiful. But you have to give yourself a space to re-understand. It's not about, I'm gonna take this thing that I hate and then I have to love it, and forcing yourself to go against the current like that. It's not that. It's going, okay, this thing about me frustrates me, I hate it, and I feel really negatively about this thing. I feel negatively towards myself about this thing. Instead of going, okay, then I just have to love bomb it so that it feels better. Unpack it, sit with, okay, this is how I feel, why do I feel this way? And then like try to make space every time that feeling comes up to figure out how to calm it down and to get yourself to a more neutral stance. And then when you do feel more neutral about those parts of yourself, then you have the space to start building up that love. You know, you can't just like skip the calm down section of it. You have to be okay with yourself before you can love yourself, and you can't just jump from one end to the other. So yeah, you can love yourself. You just need to want to do the work. And if you need more motivation on breaking down those barriers of worrying what people think about you, just think of it like a filtration system, because if you're gonna spend your entire life trying so hard to be something that you're not and surrounding yourself with people that are nothing like you, you're never gonna be able to escape that pain. Like, in very much not a victim shaming or a shaming place. I'm not coming from a place that's supposed to shame you or tell you that you're doing something wrong, but just pointing out the fact that if you are spending your energy on people that don't actually align with you, you are going to continue to feel unfulfilled and empty and get hurt and not feel like there's a place for you. If you're not even making a place for yourself, like, the more you that you allow yourself to be, the more that you'll find the people who do align with you. And a lot of people might look at you and go, interesting. And Yani, I don't know how many people I can fucking count on my hands that have looked at me and told me, you're weird. Sometimes it's in a good way, sometimes it's in a bad way. Rarely in a bad way, usually it's in a neutral way, I guess. But a lot of people have made it very clear that, like, you're interesting. Cool. People have left my life, people have unfollowed me, people have, looked at me weird. People look at me weird on the street daily, anytime I leave my house, but that just makes the difference between us more obvious, and it actually protects me from spending my energy on people who don't align with me, because to me, I want people in my life who want to express themselves, who are non-judgmental, who put love and empathy over everything, who love making art, who are ready to experiment, who love just listening and learning about things. And the kinds of people that are going to think that I'm weird and odd and don't want to be around me, by presenting the way that I do, I've just gotten rid of them. It is also the type of thing where, like, if you have these specific kinds of people that you want to be friends with, but you don't allow yourself to present that way, how are they going to know, align with each other, and that you are similar people? The more me that I get, the more I attract people that are more similar to me and have similar values to me, similar views to me, want similar things out of life, have similar lived experiences, because they see themselves in me and I see myself in them. As long as you're listening to your heart, and as long as you're listening to the person that your younger self would have want to be, as long as you're listening to the things that make you feel alive and comfortable, and you, as long as you're doing the things that make you feel like you, it's a foolproof plan. You will fall in love with yourself. It might take longer than you anticipate. It might start to go up and then go down, but you will be able to fall in love with yourself. You will be able to have that security. You just have to commit and trust the process and know that it's all building up to the person that you want to be, but you have to listen to the person that you want to be. And you have to be ready to figure out what that person is and who that person is and what that person looks like. And be okay that there is no agenda, there's no guidebook for how this works. But that should liberate you and that should excite you, because that tells you can be literally anything you want to. Even though, there are a lot of challenges that people will face that stop them from being able to, but that should not, be the point of this. I think your relationship to yourself is much bigger than anything, and you might not be able to express it the way that you want to if you don't have the privileges that I do to have the space to be yourself, but that relationship with yourself still can always be there, even if it stops at a certain level, until you do have that space to express who you are. But yeah,